Oh, we got a new big-time contract going on in the NFL. One of the greatest players in the game is being paid like that. That's why you see Marcus at the top of the show taking up my space on First Take. By the way, this is something that the First Take audience needs to know. Never will you see the level of GQ stuff going on First Take like you will this morning. I'll give you an indication once you see all of us, all right? We giving notes. Those of you out there who don't know how to dress, watch First Take today. You'll learn. First Take's in the house. Let's go.
This organization drafted me here 8 years ago to have opportunity to help bring this here.
AD 99 showing up in Super Bowl 56.
Big-time players make big-time plays in big-time games.
Aaron Donald got there, the greatest of all time on defense, does it in the biggest moment of Super Bowl 56.
Finally, mission complete.
Good day. What's going on, everybody? Welcome into First Take. As Stephen A. just mentioned, JJ and CJ will be here in a hot second. But first, my guys Swagoo and SA. Good to have you back.
It's good to be back. It's good to be back.
How's the travels going? How's the finals going?
It's nightmarish. I'm a little tired, but the bottom line is I needed to be here, so I'm here.
Okay.
That's all that matters.
Let's go.
All right.
Can we get to an order of business first? Can we get to an order of business, Molly Q? Because I heard you mention the name, and I was excited when this got announced that CJ McCollum would be coming to ESPN. And I just want to let y'all know I'm a big fan of CJ McCollum. The New Orleans Pelicans are my team because y'all know I'm Louisiana boot life, okay? But I wanted CJ to know that he got a big supporter out here, and I'm looking forward to them Pelicans making some noise as we did in the playoffs this year.
Off screen, but smiling. There he is.
Time out. We'll get to that later. Let me throw a little shade on that. CJ McCollum been a big-time NBA player for quite a while.
Yeah.
I never heard Swagoo say his name once until he arrived in New Orleans. I just want to say.
Molly Q, hold on.
That's a lie.
CJ,
it's not a lie.
Is CJ around? Is CJ
CJ's
around?
right here. He's right here.
I'm right here.
Okay, because I've actually sent CJ messages letting him know I was a fan of him. I don't know if he gets a lot of them probably.
I kept the receipts.
Okay, all right. Just want to get that cleared up before we get to work.
First day back in New York, already causing trouble. All right, let's go, guys.
That's what I do.
It was a good day for Rams All-Pro Aaron Donald. How about this? Becoming the highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL, that according to our Adam Schefter. The reworked deal brings the total value of the defensive tackle's contract to $95 million over 3 years. $65 is guaranteed in the first 2 years, making Donald the first non-quarterback. I know you love this, Marcus. To eclipse $30 million per season. The deal's structured to allow Donald, who's 31, to either retire or return for the 2024 season for an additional $30 million guaranteed, sources telling Schefter as well. I'm going to start with you here, Swaggo. Who's more important to the Rams repeating as Super Bowl champs? Is it the quarterback on defense and Aaron Donald, or the real quarterback, Matthew Stafford?
Molly, you know I wouldn't come on here and I'm going to use one of my big bro words and spit any blasphemy. This is about Aaron Donald, and I'm not going to let Stephen A. Smith steal what I'm about to say because I'm excited that a defensive lineman finally got paid some quarterback money because he earned it. Listen, we can go on the field and literally look at Aaron Donald close 2 games out when the opposite team had the ball in their hands. We can go to the Super Bowl when Jalen Ramsey fell down and Jamar Chase would have been wide open and the Los Angeles Rams wouldn't have won the Super Bowl, most likely, if Aaron Donald hadn't sacked Joe Burrow on that play. Me and Stephen A. sat here last year and we battled every game that Aaron Donald had in the playoffs, every game that we talked about. Who's the most important? Is it Tom Brady? Is it Aaron Donald? I said, S.A., this is a different animal. It's Aaron Donald. All right, you can't say that about guys in today's NFL because we so quarterback driven. But damn it, I am. And when you look at the plays that he makes, the timely plays that he makes, the things that he does in spite of having the hardest route to have success because more NFL players are trying to stop him from doing his job than anybody else in the league when it comes to his particular position and where he's aligned from a defensive standpoint. And then that's the other thing. I'm not going to get far in the weeds because I want to debate Stephen A. on general things. I don't want to go into X's and O's and talk about the importance and the brilliance of Aaron Donald when it comes to helping facilitate for his other teammates. The fact that the entire defense would have to change for the Los Angeles Rams if he wasn't a part of that unit, and they would not clearly be Super Bowl champions if it had not been for Aaron Donald and his playmaking in critical times in the football game. Go ahead, cliche guy, quarterback guy.
Well, first of all, I'm far from a cliche guy. I think we know this. Number one.
Well, you're not. I
have to admit, I must say, I'm actually bored with this topic. I understand that we have to address
You're
it.
Bored?
I'm very bored. I mean, this means nothing to me. Aaron Donald is one of the greatest players to have ever played the game.
And now I have a chance to repeat, Stephen A.
Allow me to finish.
Okay.
Aaron Donald is one of the greatest players we've ever seen.
Yeah.
He's in the same ilk, the conversations, the Lawrence Taylors of the world, the Mike Singletary. I mean, some of the great, Ronnie Lotts of the world, the people like that. One of the greatest defensive players we've ever seen, clearly worthy of being the highest paid defensive player in the game. There is no question about that, okay? So we're not debating that. We're not debating the greatness. We're not debating the fact that he closed the deal against Joe Burrow and those boys and helped deliver a Super Bowl. But I would remind you that Aaron Donald has been in this league for 8 years. The first 3 years, they didn't make the playoffs. The last 4 years, they have. 2 of those times, they were in the Super Bowl. They won their first Super Bowl last year. Because of the way the NFL game is structured, we understand if you don't have a quarterback, you don't have a chance. It's just that simple. We've seen Chicago, for example, not the Khalil Mack now, who may have lost a step, but I still think is big time. We've seen Chicago's defense be elite. We've seen other defenses be elite. But when you don't have a quarterback, what happens to you? It's really that simple. So this is not about Aaron Donald versus a Matthew Stafford or anything like that. This is about bringing Swagoo back to a reality he doesn't want to face. He is prejudiced in favor of big dudes. Big man balling and all of this other stuff. That's what he cares about. If you're small, if you're slim, if you play a quarterback position, whatever, Swagoo ain't got no problem for you. Offensive lineman and defensive lineman, he is unapologetically biased in favor of those
100%.
guys. He believes they're completely unappreciated and that they deserve the recognition. And Aaron Donald is getting it, so he's big up in Aaron Donald. The problem with Swagoo's argument is that who doesn't big up Aaron Donald? We all know about the greatness of Aaron Donald. We've all praised the greatness for many, many years. There's nothing to debate here. But in the end, the way the NFL game is structured, the quarterback position is significantly more important than a defensive lineman, particularly an interior defensive lineman.
I just need to say one thing, Marcus, before you get in here. Do you want to tell me that I'm right? Because I sat up here with you and Mad Dog, and you thought he wanted to retire, and I told you it was a negotiating tactic. Remember? Remember that situation? Yeah. You thought he was retiring, and I said to you, no, he's just playing the game.
No, I did not say that.
Trying to get more money.
No. To quote me accurately, what I said is, if you're going to be on the record saying that you're contemplating retirement, I want to make sure you're completely interested in playing the game. I would much rather you want your money and be willing to say that you'll leave to go elsewhere than saying, I'm good, I'm ready to walk away from the game unless I get what I want.
Negotiating tactic. Go ahead, Swaggo. He can't admit it.
There's nothing to admit. But that's all I have to say. That's all I have to say. I'm not really interested in the subject.
I understand it. I understand it. And my word cliche was not being lended to you personally, but this is the argument that everybody makes. But all they got to do is watch the damn game. I'm not saying Matthew Stafford wasn't a difference maker. We all know that Matthew Stafford coming to the Los Angeles Rams, we all felt like he made them a Super Bowl contender. No, let me rephrase. Not all of us. Some people thought Matthew Stafford wasn't good and it had nothing to do with Detroit. But he proved that to be wrong. But I'm going to sit here and answer this question, this particular question pertaining to this particular team, okay? If Aaron Donald would not have been playing for the Los Angeles Rams last year, they would not have won a Super Bowl with Matthew Stafford as their quarterback.
Time out. If Jared Goff was quarterback in the Rams with Aaron Donald on the team, they still wouldn't have won the damn Super Bowl.
And Aaron Donald, on the year that Jared Goff went to the Super Bowl, he wasn't even the guy that was focused in that offense. That was Todd Gurley, who won league MVP.
What I'm trying to say.
These arguments.
Did they win the Super Bowl? Did they win the Super Bowl? They lost the Super Bowl because they scored 3 points against the New England Patriots.
No, but
the point is, they didn't win the Super Bowl until a quarterback arrived. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. We can move on.
Did you watch the playoffs?
You know I did. You know I watch every minute of the game.
Okay, so through our texting, who would you attribute the main reason to winning the Super Bowl to?
I would attribute that to Aaron Donald, yes.
Okay, case closed.
So Stephen A.
All right, Marcus, you'll be back. You'll be back. Exactly. Yeah, you won it. It's all good.
But they still would have lost if Jared Goff was quarterback in the team because I don't think Jared Goff would have get registered 10 points.
Stephen A. They would have lost with Matthew Stafford if Aaron Donald wouldn't have closed the games out.
Okay, man.
They would have lost the Super Bowl.
I'll give it to big man balling because I got my mind on other things. I'll give it to big man balling because we know that's what he wants to do.
Another team in California that's trying to run it back as well. Swagoo, you'll be back.
I'm going to sit here and watch CJ.
The full splash has not been in effect. Klay Thompson hasn't been himself so far in the finals. He's averaging 13 points in 2 games, shooting 10 of 33 from the field, 4 of 15 from deep, including an abysmal 1 of 8 behind the arc shooting. Here's Jeff Van Gundy on Klay.
I can't envision in my mind how they could win this series, let alone another game, if he can't find a level of, doesn't have to be great, but super impactful and good to really good. They got to get more from Thompson.
All right, here's the crew. How's everybody feeling this morning?
What's going on?
Great.
All right, I'm going to start with you, JJ. How concerning is Klay's play if they're trying to win the chip this year?
It's concerning in the sense that they need Klay Thompson to have a couple big games for them to win this series. However, I'm not particularly concerned. We just saw him in a closeout game against the Mavs go for 32 with 8 threes. I think it's important to note that this early struggle that he's had against the Boston Celtics has been a trend throughout the playoffs. In games 1 and 2 of every series throughout the playoffs, he's averaging 15 a game on 39 and 30 shooting splits. After that, he's up to 22 a game on 48 and 44 shooting splits. So his game gets better as the series progresses. Now, in relation to the Boston Celtics.
Wait, 1 second. Are you talking about just this year or you're talking about always?
I'm talking about this year.
Okay.
This postseason.
Okay.
Yeah, this postseason.
Okay.
Post 2 lower body leg injuries. So I think when we talk about this specifically with the Boston Celtics, what they have done a great job of, they have contested his shots really well. They've made it tough on him. They've been in his airspace. I think he was 1 for 13 in game 2 on contested shots. He's got to find a way, CJ, to get more uncontested shots. And we talked about this earlier today on Get Up. I think the way to do that is you got to find him in transition. You got to push the pace. The Warriors are so good at finding Klay Thompson and Steph Curry in transition for those transition threes. And in game 2, he missed a couple bunnies at the rim. As a shooter, you want to see those shots go in. Any little thing, free throws, layups, an uncontested 3 in transition, that's ultimately what's going to get you going so then that you can make the contested shots. But overall, I mean, I'm not concerned about Klay. I do expect him to have a couple big games, and they need him to have a couple big games if they're going to win the series.
Well, I'm concerned about him. I'm concerned about him a lot because this is one of the greatest shooters we've ever seen in the history of the game. And over the first 2 games of this series, he's averaging 13 points on 30% shooting from the field and 26% from three-point range. That's not Klay Thompson. That's just not Klay Thompson. That's not the Klay Thompson we know. Now, you're absolutely right. As a series wanes, he's shown that he can get it on and he'll explode into game 5 or game 6. His record speaks for itself. And I believe he's one of the top 5 shooters in the history of basketball. When you look at his numbers and when you look at what he brings to the table, he's a marksman. There's no question about it. But we know that he's not 100%. We know that he's not fully back yet after those 2 nasty leg injuries that he suffered that kept him out over the last 2 years. And so when you take that into account and you think about how Boston is strategizing against him, they're up in his face. They're contesting everything. They're relatively bigger dudes, not Marcus Smart. but a Derek White has good size in him. Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown obviously have good size in them or what have you. It's not as easy for Klay Thompson to get open shots. And if you're making him work for everything that he gets, okay, you guys know this better than me. Legs play an important role in your ability to shoot the basketball. The fresher your legs are, that definitely helps, okay? It's not just about you and your wrist. It's not just about you and your stroke. It's also about the legs that you've got under you as well. And if you're making a guy work overtime to get anything, that's taken away some of that from Klay Thompson. And I think as a result, we're seeing what we're seeing. Now, do I believe this will continue? No. But I will say I concur with Jeff Van Gundy when he says Klay Thompson has to play better in order for them to win this series, because I don't believe that you beat this Boston Celtics team and Klay Thompson doesn't show up at all. I don't believe that.
Not concerned at all. The series is still 1-1. We talked about this. Outside of how they performed in the fourth quarter of game one, the series should be 2-0, to be honest with you. And looking at what you said previously, because I love to bring up old things.
Sure.
You said that the Warriors only needed 2 out of the 3 to play well
yes,
in order to win. So the fact that Klay Thompson hasn't shot well, 30%, I'm willing to bet it's not going to happen again. He's not going to go 4 for 19 tomorrow in Boston. It's only a matter of time before he plays well and shoots well. They just need Jordan Poole to play better, to be more aggressive, more assertive, similar to how he was in the third quarter. And they can still win this series with 2 of the 3 playing well. Obviously, assuming Steph scores 25 to 30, they can still win. But the concern here is more so about, like you talked about, the legs, the foundation, the dips. He's missing open shots, not just contested. Credit Jaylen Brown for defending well, running him off the line. Marcus Smart's a great defender. They're pressuring him. They're switching a lot. But how often have we seen the Warriors set a screen and slip and get a dunk? Historically, that's their offense. They play at a split post. They play through Draymond Green. I think they should get back to that more often. Obviously, in the third quarter, they'll go high pick and rolls with Steph, clear things out, allow for him to space, and that will also affect Klay's touches. But if they run more of their continuity offense, more of their split movement, that's what's going to give Boston more trouble. So I expect Klay to play well in a hurry.
Well, first of all, I appreciate you holding that against me, because you're absolutely right. That is what I said. You need 2 of the 3 guys. Don't have as much faith in Jordan Poole as if yes. Not to say that he's not going to do some good things, because I expect him to, but I think he likes to dribble a little bit too much. I think against Boston, that's an impediment to his success. Even though he's shown that he can get off a little bit, I think there's times that he could potentially cost them. When we talk about reliability, we're talking about guys that are tried and proven in Steph and Klay, right? So let's get back to Klay here, because see, here's the thing that really, it throws me off about you guys when you talk about not being concerned. If this is the regular season, no. Klay, getting it. We got time. This is the finals. You ain't got so much time. You got 5 games left. It's the best. It's the best 3 or 5 from this point forward. You got 1-1. It's the first team that gets the next 3 wins the championship. You don't have all day. You don't have all year. And so when I see what Boston is doing to him now, the question is, do you think they can continue to do it? I would remind you, JJ, you did pick the Boston Celtics to win this series. Okay. There is a reason for that. And so when I'm looking at Klay, I'm thinking about, all right, I got Golden State winning this game. This series is 7 games. I'm believing, he might need to step up and be better than what he is, like Jeff Van Gundy said, in order for them to make you wrong and make your prediction of the Celtics winning this series wrong. Why is that beyond the realm of comprehension? And we're looking at an NBA Finals. We're looking at a guy that's been gone for 2 years. He's been working his way back. We all know he's not fully back yet, meaning 100% healthy, okay? He's still working his way through. And you're going up against the elite defense in basketball right now in the Boston Celtics. Why is that beyond the realm of comprehension that Klay Thompson can continue to struggle as this series wanes? It is possible. I don't think it'll happen, but it is possible.
Very few things are beyond the realm of comprehension, Stephen A. I mean, we live in 2022. Okay. Like, very few things. I can understand your argument. On the timing issue, though, you do realize every series prior to this has also been 7 games. Yes, he's also had to have a sense of urgency. So I'm asking you, though, like, would you take 22 on 48-44 shooting splits the rest of the series? Like, that's pretty good. That's pretty much Klay Thompson pre-leg injury, right? Okay. And the idea that he's not 100%, yeah, he's not a version of himself, but he's 100% in who he is right now. And that 100% was pretty darn good in Game 5 against the Mavs. It was pretty darn good in prior series.
You know that.
Hold on a second. Hold on.
The
misconception. I want to bring something. The misconception on this idea of legs and making people work. Like, I had to deal with this, and CJ knows, from me guarding him and from him guarding me. When you are a shooter, when you are a scorer like Klay Thompson, you're always on the move. You're always using your legs. you're always conditioning. I did a detail episode of Game 5 in that Mavs series. It wasn't like Klay Thompson was standing in one place shooting threes. He's always moving to spots. He's always coming
just talking
off
about
picks.
fatigue. I'm using that. I'm saying fatigue. I know he's moving.
He just had a week off. I'm not buying the fatigue factor. Okay. I think I buy more into the Boston Celtics doing a good job of being physical. And again, going back to that detail episode, what I saw over and over again, starting off the ball, the Mavs defenders, they're 5 feet off and then chasing through screens. What are the Celtics doing? They're up to touch every single time with Steph Curry and Klay Thompson. They're being physical before the screen ever comes. That's taking away a lot of that momentum to get that little bit of separation. CJ, am I right? You just need a little bit of separation coming off those picks. And if the defender's already into you, it's harder to get that separation. To CJ's point, I completely agree with this. But on your point about the post splits, the Celtics cannot guard Steph Curry in pick and rolls. So if you're the Warriors and you're scoring 1.7 points per possession on Steph Curry pick and rolls against drop coverage, why would you go to your post splits in the half court when you could have the greatest offense of all time by just running those high pick and rolls? So I do think, we're going to need Klay. We're going to need Jordan Poole. Steph has been so good in this series. That's the concern. And at some point, they're probably going to have to double him. At some point, it's going to be 4-on-3 action on that backside.
And you're saying that once they double him, that's going to free up play more.
Clay's going to be wide. Yeah, he's going to be wide open. He won't have to work as hard. He won't have to fight through screens and do all that stuff. And the last point
But you did point out that he missed open shots, too.
So he missed some shots. Coming off picks.
I understand that.
On fades.
I understand that.
I
understand there's tough shots, but we're talking about Klay Thompson. We're not talking about somebody that's foreign to these situations. And so the point is that when we see him missing more than we're accustomed to seeing him miss, that is a cause for alarm. You don't have Jeff Van Gundy saying that. You don't have Magic Johnson pointing out how guys got their hands on their hips and they look absolutely exhausted. It's not an accident that people are picking up on this stuff. And if you're Boston, that's your intent because you know that's going to elevate your chances of ultimately pulling out this series. To be physical, to get up in their face, to contest. It's what they do. It's why they eat.
I watched the halftime show of Game 1, and I just want to make a point here. How many times in a game on a dead ball you do grab your shorts, CJ?
You just
25.
Rest.
It doesn't mean you're tired. God. And by the way, that old thing that the old heads say this all the time, like my AU coach growing up. Don't put your hands on your shorts and lean over. You can't breathe as well.
We know better. We know better than that. We know better than that.
You can breathe fine.
But that doesn't mean that in that particular instance they were incorrect. That's all I'm saying. It doesn't mean that.
I'm not saying they are incorrect or correct. I'm saying I'm not buying any of that. Cool. I'm not buying any of that.
I think we're just used to Klay making shots, so we're trying to find an excuse for him. Sometimes you just miss. JJ talked about this being a trend. He has struggled to start series in games 1 and games 2. The switch comes on in game 3. He puts more of a sense of urgency on the performance down the stretch in big games when they need it. This is a big game that they need, so I would expect him to play well. And I would really expect him to play well in game 6 because I think it's going to be 2-2 going into game 5, and then it's going to be 3-2, and I think this goes 7. But ultimately, we talked about it. You don't really believe in Jordan Poole yet, right? You think he needs more time.
I wouldn't say I don't believe
You said you don't believe in him consistently performing well enough for them to win.
I've got receipts on Stephen A. for the last 3 months hyping up Jordan Poole.
I said Lethal Weapon 3.
Yes,
Lethal Weapon 3.
Talking about how
said
great
it was a pool party.
So now all of a sudden, 2 games into a series,
now you're saying
somebody else
all of a sudden you don't believe in him.
Now you don't believe in him.
Matter of fact, I said I wouldn't go to the pool party. That's what I said.
CJ,
but you are right. I said Lethal Weapon 3.
You're talking about
I didn't say Lethal Weapon 3. I'm not running away from it. I'm not running away from it. I said Lethal Weapon 3.
You called the Warriors in 7. And now, because Klay Thompson is struggling a little bit, you're backpedaling.
How am I backpedaling? Did I say Boston's not winning, that the Warriors are not winning this series? Did you hear those words come out of my mouth?
You said
Did you hear those words come out of my mouth?
You said, I'm concerned because
I said I was concerned coming into the series, but I still picked the Warriors in 7.
But if you think that Klay is going to continue to struggle and you're not all the way invested into this pool party, how are they going to win?
I am not.
How do they win?
Because I said that I believe, even though I'm concerned, I'm still going to keep my faith in Klay Thompson.
KD's not walking through that door.
Oh, I know that.
He ain't walking through
that door.
I know
that. I bet you he probably wish he was. You know what I'm saying? He'd be in the finals. Well, you say that. You say that. I know. Listen, they got swept. That's not the people to bring up right now. They got swept. Okay? But the point that I am making is I'm not jumping off the Warriors bandwagon. I'm just saying I am concerned. I respect the hell out of the Boston Celtics. And to me, you got to bring your A game to beat them. That's how I feel.
You do. No, I concur. I think that was a respectable debate in which I still say the Boston Celtics are going to win this
Well,
series.
you go ahead and say that, and you go ahead and say that too. Y'all go ahead and say it, but don't accuse me of backpedaling. I did say the Warriors are winning the 7, and I have not jumped off that.
Well, you better hope Klay Thompson plays better because you said that you
worried.
don't think Poole can carry the load.
I don't think
he just carried the load against the Denver Nuggets.
I don't think that's right. And then against Memphis, not so much. And then obviously in the Western Conference Finals, not so much. I'm just saying that he shows up, but consistently, I worry about that. But Poole has got a bright future. I like Poole.
He's got a rich future.
Very rich future, and he deserves it. I'm just saying that, Klay Thompson's a different animal. I expect more.
Okay. And I said pool party, and that's not corny. Lethal Weapon 3 was
No,
corny.
Lethal Weapon
That never stopped. No one ever liked that but you.
Lethal Weapon 3 is not corny at all.
All right, let's go to Southern California. You're the only person that ever liked it to get picked up. Darvin Ham was introduced as the Los Angeles Lakers' new coach on Monday with point guard Russell Westbrook standing off to the side in the public to show support for the hiring. Ham reciprocated that support right back to Westbrook after a tumultuous first season in Los Angeles for the former league MVP. Here's the new head man at the mic.
Don't get it messed up. Russ is one of the best players our league has ever seen, and there's still a ton left in that tank. I don't know why people tend to try to write him off.
We only had a little snippet of it. There was way better stuff in that press conference, but whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys saw it in its entirety, but it was good. It was really good. I'll start with you here, CJ. Do you think Darvin Ham can make it work with LeBron, AD, and Russ? Because some people have questions about how this roster is structured.
I think he can make it work because of the respect level that they're going to have for him, first of all, and being an ex-player. I think all those things matter. And he talked about being shot in the face growing up. He's not afraid.
That's the sound I was
He's not afraid of the fans. He's not afraid of what comes from an expectation standpoint. He's not going to be afraid to challenge Bron, to challenge Russ, to challenge AD. And I think when you have that mutual respect for one another, you're willing to sacrifice. Sacrifice was a buzzword that he used throughout that press conference. He talked about Russ's defense. He didn't mention offense because he knows that offensively they're talented. They just have to work on spacing issues. They have to get shooting around them. And they all have to be willing to do the little things. But none of this is going to matter if they aren't healthy. I talked about this a ton. A healthy team gives you a chance to win a championship. A healthy team gives you a chance to gain that consistency, that trust, that chemistry, that camaraderie. And they weren't healthy last year. And that's been the difference, in my humble opinion.
I want to give Darvin Ham all the chance in the world. I'm happy he got this job. I'm supportive of it. My trepidation came from the fact that he's a first-year coach and the stuff that we were hearing about how the Lakers organization interfered with the coaching. Now, to their defense, they categorically denied this. They didn't tell Frank Vogel you had to play a player and you couldn't play this player and you had to sit him down and you had to give him this amount of minutes. They didn't do all of that. That's what they say. Others say otherwise. With all of that being said, Darvin Ham is a former player. He's a rough rider. You ain't going to push him around. You ain't going to intimidate him as a player. He's not scared to get in anybody's face and tell them what they need to hear in order for the betterment of the team and ultimately the positive outcomes that you're looking for. To answer the question directly, I believe if LeBron James and Anthony Davis are healthy, the Lakers could go to the playoffs with those two guys. My reservations are extremely deep about Russell Westbrook in this system. I think that Russell Westbrook is the kind of dude you got to give the ball to and let him do whatever it is that he does that has made him a perennial all-star and a future Hall of Famer. To work within the concept of a team run by LeBron James is extremely more difficult. And so him being at that press conference yesterday, actually to me, I didn't like it. And the reason I didn't like it is because, yes, you're still a member of the Lakers, but we all know everybody's been talking about what the Lakers need to do when it comes to Russell Westbrook. He's entering the last year of his deal. He's getting $47 million. Will somebody take him? Well, okay, you're going to keep him. How are you going to fix what happened last year? This is the issue. I don't like when people, I'm being careful about what I say, guys, just so you know, because Russell Westbrook is the kind of guy that when you say something, he thinks it's a character issue. Like, You're getting at him, and I have to explain this on several occasions. Ain't talking about Russell Westbrook, the man. I think he's a good brother. He's got his heart in the right place. There's nothing about his character to smear. He can't shoot the ball well. He's not the greatest point guard as it pertains to decision making. He turns the ball over. And now he's been struggling to reach 68% for the free throw line. So when you take all of those things into consideration and you see what you've seen from the Los Angeles Lakers last year, I think as long as LeBron James and Anthony Davis are healthy, you can overcome it enough to be a playoff team. But that's about the height of my expectations for the Los Angeles Lakers.
So you said a random take, and then you explained a bunch of things about Russell Westbrook that had nothing to do with that take. And so I want clarification on this.
Sure.
What is your issue with Russell Westbrook being at that news conference?
That's a wild thing. That's a wild thing
that
for
well
you to
at all,
say.
Stephen A.
Him supporting his team, his organization, his coach, a fellow African-American man that gets hired by the Los Angeles Lakers.
Don't go there.
That's not you're saying, this is what you said.
But no. But see,
you said that
you're crossing the line when you bring up, another African-American man. That's not where I'm going with
you
that. I'm
said
talking about the Lakers organization discussing trading him.
What does that got to do with him?
Well, what I'm saying, no. What are you talking about? What that has?
You said him going to the press conference. You're disappointed.
I'm saying.
Don't run the tape. We got a tape. That's what you said.
Stephen,
the Lakers organization has been talking about moving Russell Westbrook. They're talking about trading him. My point is that this guy, there are question marks as to whether or not he's going to be a part of the team. That's all I meant by saying.
Right now, he's on the team.
I understand
that. And that's his new coach.
Okay.
For the time being.
Do you want to take back that statement?
No.
I feel you don't want to take it back.
No, because I didn't mean it the way CJ's trying to interpret it.
Even if you didn't mean it the way I said it. You said that he shouldn't have been at the press conference, which is foul.
I said I did not lie.
He should have been at the press
conference. First of all, it's not foul.
I'm saying for him to not show up, but he's in the city.
I'm not faulting him for being there. I'm saying the Los Angeles Lakers are trying to move this dude because last year was so uncharacteristically awful. You got people that think he's done. I don't believe that. I believe Russell Westbrook's got a lot left in them. But clearly the Lakers have some trepidation about it. Talk to the teams around the league, and they'll tell you the trepidation that exists around Russell Westbrook. So if you're talking about moving this guy, remember he was supportive of Frank Vogel as well. Then he's sitting there at the end of the season saying, I don't know what the hell happened. You know, I was good. I was good to this guy. I was supportive of this guy, et cetera, giving off the impression that there was expectations that came with it in terms of it being reciprocated. So now I don't want to hear that when it comes to the new coach, Darvin Ham, because Darvin Ham is coming in there to coach the team to the best of his ability. What level of expectations do you have then? What level of reciprocation are you having then because you support the new guy coming on board? I'm talking about it from the standpoint of a Lakers organization that has taken the position that they've taken, albeit privately. And I'm saying, excuse me, when I see him at the press conference, it gives the impression, okay, are you keeping him here? Is this guy a part of the team for this upcoming season? Are you no longer talking about moving Russell Westbrook? I'm thinking about it along those lines. That's all.
So you're not thinking about it from the Russell Westbrook standpoint, because essentially what you're saying, because Russell Westbrook was essentially being a professional by showing up to the press conference.
Yes, I was talking about the Los Angeles Lakers and the supposed relationship.
That makes this better because the way it came off to us, and
I just wanted clarification.
It was like you didn't think he should be there, and I'm like, you have to show up for your coach if you're in the city.
To answer this question real quick, and we've kind of talked about this a ton of times, and I'm not going to use your favorite catchphrase. I promise you. I won't say the word top heavy. Oh God, I said it.
The top heavy roster.
No, there's really three things here when I think about this team. Number one is we've seen throughout these playoffs the value of big two-way wings.
Okay.
And the Lakers traded those guys to get Westbrook. They elected not to sign Caruso, so they are lacking in that department. And asking next year a 38-year-old LeBron James to be that two-way wing throughout the playoffs, I just don't think that's realistic. They don't have the roster pieces currently that fills that void, which a lot of these teams, they all have big two-way wings. Secondly, and CJ and I have talked about this earlier today as well, secondly is the shooting. And they just don't have enough shooting. If you're going to play LeBron James, Anthony Davis, and Russell Westbrook together, that is going to be a clogged paint. Anthony Davis was not an efficient jump shooter last year. Russell Westbrook has never been an efficient jump shooter. And obviously LeBron James has increased his efficiency to great levels. So the third piece in all of that is how does Westbrook fit in all of this? And I think the one way you can make this work is obviously by building the roster around those two pieces, big two-way wings that can shoot, and obviously more shooting maybe involve a stretch five. But Anthony Davis has got to play five. And he is historically pushed back on the notion that he can play five. LeBron James had some success last year in certain lineups with shooting, being a screener, which is a role we saw a little bit in Miami and a little bit in Cleveland, but there were stretches last year in the regular season where he played that role as a screening, rolling five, and then making plays out of that. So you're going to have to ask people to maybe do things that they haven't done before. I don't know that you're going to be able to ask Russell Westbrook to do things that he hasn't done that's going to make him successful. He has to play a certain way. That's just reality. And I think it's the other guys that are going to maybe have to adjust their games a bit if the goal is to maximize Russell Westbrook.
Go ahead.
I think it's about sacrifice. I said it before. Someone has to sacrifice. That's the only way your team can be successful when you like to play in the same spaces. By same spaces, I mean AD likes to post up at 15 feet. He's a pick-and-pop guy, great mid-range shooter, back to the basket around that 12 to 15 feet where he can spin and get lobs. Russ likes to back guys down, play isolation, attack and transition, pick and roll. High-usage guy who likes the ball in his hands. I haven't even talked about Bron, who's, top 5 greatest players of all time.
High usage.
Loves to have the ball in his hands. High usage. He has to step back to freedom now. He'll shoot threes, but he still loves to have the ball. So I think the biggest thing is someone has to sacrifice. Someone has to work on catching and shooting the basketball, right? Because you have to play off the ball because it's only one ball, and there's 5 of y'all, and 3 of y'all average 20 a game. So I think this sacrifice has to come, but I think that's up to Coach Ham to kind of figure things out.
But I don't think the sacrifice really is necessary with the case of Anthony Davis. He just has to be healthy. Because Anthony Davis, if you're the LeBron James, you're going to want to get him the basketball. LeBron James has no aversion to that. The issue is LeBron James and Russell Westbrook. Because LeBron James is 37, 19th in the league, be 38 next season. You got Russell Westbrook. He turns 34 in November. Both of them have been in the league for more than a decade, obviously. How easy is it going to be to get what you just pointed to get one of these guys, if not both of them, to make the necessary sacrifice? I mean, we can say it. We all know it. The question is how plausible it is. How likely is it that that kind of sacrifice is going to happen? I'm asking you. I'm looking at you right now.
I guess time will tell. Him showing up to the press conference showed me that he's buying in. I think Ham is going to be willing to challenge him offensively and defensively. And I think back to Russ in Houston.
See what you just did?
I think back to Russ in Houston. He played off the ball in Houston. James was very dominant, obviously.
And he wanted out.
Yeah, but he averaged 27.
He was fantastic.
I'm not saying he needs to be that Russ. I'm saying he can play off the ball. He just has to be aggressive on his catches, and he needs to play with the second unit.
How can he play off the ball?
That's a rotation.
How can he play off the ball?
Catch and drive.
Oh, catch and drive.
I
thought you was going to say catch and shoot because we going to stop the show right there because we know we can't say that.
CJ,
okay?
Would you not agree with me that the fit of that team, the other 3 guys, it was a 5-out offense. PJ Tucker, they traded Clint Capella. PJ Tucker ended up playing 5 for that team. That's when he took off. You'd look at his stats up until mid-December of that. We played against them early in the season when they still had Capella. We were just packing the paint.
Right.
I mean, that's all I started the game on Westbrook, and I just stood in the paint the whole game. So it wasn't until they traded Capella, they went 5 out, and they had 3 other shooters besides Westbrook and Harden.
But what I'm going to get on you about, how come you didn't get on him about, first of all, I bring up Russell Westbrook at the press conference. You get on me about that. He just brought up Russell Westbrook at the press conference. You didn't pick that up.
I said that I liked that he was there.
No, let me finish.
I said that I liked that he was there. I said that he was showing that he cares. He's invested.
I'm getting to a point. Don't interrupt me.
Where is this going to go? Where is this going to go?
He just brought it up in a positive light. What did he say? He said, you're there. You obviously support the coach. What I'm pointing to is that the same thing he did with Frank Vogel. And so what happens is that you support Frank Vogel. You think Frank Vogel's going to support you. And then suddenly, midway during the season, I don't know what the hell they want. They asked me to do one thing. The next thing you know, they want me to do something else. And we're talking about how they're not on the same page.
Yeah, that's why they were the 11th seed.
We're talking about why they're not on the same page.
What does this have to do with this new team, this new situation? They doing 4 out, 1 in now. JJ talked about spacing.
Every situation, I understand that every situation is different. I respect that. But what I'm trying to say is that past habits give indications about future actions sometimes. And if you have an expectation because you've cultivated a relationship with somebody and then the season starts and they're asking you to do something you don't want to do, it could cause the kind of problems we watched last year. You talk about keeping receipts. Is that a receipt?
To be continued.
I don't think that was a worthy.
Please.
Please.
Hey,
before
we go to break, though, side note, were you guys
I got
impressed
you.
with the press
I got
conference?
you.
I mean, I know it's just a press conference, but that would be a guy I would want to run the
I love that
For
press
sure.
conference. I like the
did
way
I.
he handled himself, and that's why I think this is going to be different because of the respect level that they're going to have for him, understanding the appreciation. But I think he's going to challenge them in a unique way.
Yeah.
He talked about it. He didn't even talk about offense. He said, I want to see Russell Westbrook play defense the way he's played historically.
Gave up 115 points a game last year. 28th.
All right, let's go.
Bobby
We're
Fine
talking
defense.
about Ham
Bobby
now. I
Fine
moved on to Ham. Coming up on First. Another civil lawsuit has been filed against Deshaun Watson by a massage therapist accusing him of sexual misconduct. It's the second lawsuit filed against the current Browns and former Texans quarterback within the last week, and the 24th overall. Among the excerpts made on this latest complaint is that defendant Deshaun Watson has a disturbing pattern of conduct, the complaint contends. Each of the cases against him is strikingly similar, evidencing a habit or a custom. Watson seeks out random strangers on Instagram, as he has done more than 100 times. The lawsuit follows comments by Watson's attorney, Rusty Hardin, who said the following Friday on a Houston radio station.
I don't know how many men are out there now that have had a massage that perhaps occasionally there was a happy ending. All right? I do want to point out, if it has happened, it's not a crime.
Hardin later said he was speaking hypothetically and that Watson did not pay anyone for sex. As of last month, the NFL was still investigating these allegations against Watson. The quarterback has so far avoided criminal charges, and we remember, Stephen A., that the Browns gave him the highest amount of guaranteed money ever. What should the NFL do after this latest allegation? We've had 2 this week. We're now at 24.
Something simple and plain. Make a damn decision. That's what the NFL should do. Now, you have a situation that's going on right now. Let's make sure we understand this. The belief is, as Mad Dog Russo pointed out last week, where's there smoke, there's fire. The strong belief is that damage it did something. You've been accused by 24 different women of the same damn thing. I mean, if it walks like a duck, it quacks like a duck, it ain't a mongoose. That's what I've said on numerous occasions. Now you're hearing that, you know what, they're accusing him that he's done this 100 times. So he has a proclivity.
Over 100.
Over 100 times, has a proclivity to go to masseuse and to get a massage with other things, okay? And on his side, they're lying. There's no truth to this whatsoever. Read the reports and you'll see the details about how ridiculous this is. That's what his side says. We don't know. We know that they're accusing him. We know that he's denying it. Here's what we do know. We do know that if you're the National Football League, you haven't needed criminal charges to make a decision before. You haven't even needed civil charges to make a decision before. The mere fact that this stuff is in the news is enough for the National Football League to make a decision as to whether or not they want Deshaun Watson playing this year. Remember, they once suspended Ray Rice for 2 games. Then they came back once the video came out and said, "The hell with that.
Yeah.
You out."
Maybe they need the video of what happened with some of these women, and then they would actually act.
Man, I feel you, but I think this is the important point to make, Molly, and somebody's got to say it, so I'm going to say it. Again, we shouldn't need the video, number one, because many, many women have said that, and you're right. The flip side to it, however, is this. Again, you're the National Football League. You can always make a decision and then come back and modify whatever decision you make.
It's conduct detrimental to the league.
You should not be standing still and continuing to,
embarrassing.
I can't emphasize this enough. It's not just about embarrassment. Molly, it is very dangerous for a professional sports league to act as if they're law enforcement, to act as if they're the judicial system. It's very dangerous because now whatever decision you make, you're implying you know stuff we don't know. And that's not to say that that's false, because obviously you have people investigating the matter and you may know stuff that we don't know. But the point is that people will want to know what you know. And that's not the job of the National Football League. The job of the National Football League is to say this. This is our league.
Yeah.
You impugn the integrity and the shield. We have a right to act. And our decision is based on that alone. To do anything else resembles actions of law enforcement, which they are not qualified, nor do they have a right to do. Because at the end of the day, if you are Deshaun Watson or these women, and the NFL does anything against one side or the other, you have a right to zero in on the NFL and say, who the hell do you think you are? All the NFL has to do is say, this is our league.
Let me just say one thing, because I have producer counting me down each second. Just the optics of the simple fact that there's now 24 women, and then during this time period, when this isn't settled, you decided to make him the highest paid player ever.
That's
so
about Cleveland.
That's okay.
That's about Cleveland.
Well, it was greenlit. So it was greenlit.
I'm saying it's the NFL.
So I'm just saying, when we have like this heinous behavior, this going on, and we don't have a clear picture yet, then you go and reward somebody. And you incentivize, no, let me finish. And you incentivize their contract that even if there is punishment in the first year, they still get all their guaranteed money. So just think of that from an optics standpoint.
I don't, listen. They can't offer him anything if the NFL says no one can offer him anything. The Cleveland Browns are concerned about the other 31 teams.
Yeah.
That's what their concern is.
So
it's the NFL. It's the NFL's job to say, none of you get to offer him that. We're making this decision. The NFL won't do it. All of these people that are pointing the finger at the Cleveland Browns, if it wasn't them, it was going to be another team. Their attitude is, hell, at the end of the day, y'all going to be killing us because we lose at football games. Our job is to be better than the other 31 teams in the NFL. If the NFL wants to allow us to sign Deshaun Watson, then guess what? One of us is going to do it. It's the NFL's job to step in and long time ago and make whatever decision and leave it at that. They have not done that.
But Watson also might want to find a new lawyer, because that lawyer just put his foot in his mouth on a radio station. That was one of the dumbest statements I've heard.
Yeah.
We'll leave it there.
Yeah.
Still to come here on First Take. It was just one tackle. Jaylen Brown, and appeared to pull down Brown's shorts. JJ thinks it's definitely intentional. A double technical, I'm joking, of course, would have resulted in an ejection for Draymond. It would have pushed his total for the playoffs to 5, which is 2 away from an automatic 1-game suspension. He's had the second most Texans entering the league in 2012. Here's Draymond and Jeff Van Gundy with their thoughts.
I never goes into it or after my first tech like, oh, man, I got to tread carefully or walk lightly just to stay in the game. Like, because if I'm going to tread carefully and walk lightly, then I may as well get thrown out anyway, because that's not going to help my team win. So I have to be me for my team.
You either have to come to the idea as a group that we're going to completely ignore Green, his antics and his disruptions, or we're going to confront him every single time he runs his mouth. I would try to get the earliest double T of all time, and then every time Green's running his mouth, turn and confront him.
All right, Stephen A., how should Draymond approach the rest of the finals?
Down the middle. What I mean is, don't become demure, quiet, and what have you. That ain't his thing. But, JJ, I think he's a little bit too out there right now. It's one thing to feel the way, because that's just one of the quotes that he gave. It's one thing to feel the way that he feels. It's another thing to articulate it during the NBA Finals. I will remind you that Draymond Green was suspended for Game 5 of an NBA Finals that I believe cost the Golden State Warriors the championship. That game when LeBron James threw him down in Game 4, he had ultimately accumulated a number of technicals, so it called for an automatic suspension for Game 5. Golden State had won Game 4 in Cleveland. They were up 3-1, going back to the Oracle. If Draymond Green is playing in that game, I think they win. He didn't play in that game. Both Iguodala and Andrew Bogut got hurt, okay? They obviously lost Game 6 coming back to Cleveland, and then, of course, the Game 7 was the Game 7. Draymond Green, to me, getting suspended for that game cost them the championship. Now, we fast forward to now, and you see him out there, listen, Energizer Bunny, defensive tenacity. We all know what he brings to the table. But I remember I was watching, Jay, I'm sitting on the set of Countdown, and we're watching from up there, and we're looking down, and this is after he got his technical now. And then it's after the altercation with Jaylen Brown. he gets called for another foul, and he's not just talking to the referee. He's literally in his face, shoulders rubbing against the referee, and incredibly, incredibly demonstrative while he's doing it. And you had people looking at him like scared to death. He was going to get thrown out. Wilbon was sitting next to me, Mike Wilbon. Was like, he's going to get thrown out of this game. He's going to get thrown out of this game. And then to not have that happen, and then to go out, and whether it's an interview or it's on your podcast, and you sit up there and you say, hey, I know what I'm doing, and I'm going to continue to do it. And I'm not going to worry about it at all. You're going to the Boston TD Bank Garden. And if ever there is a crowd that's going to try to get the players going and to coax you into doing something you shouldn't do, it is in Boston. He got to be careful because every game in this series counts, and they can't afford to be without him.
I'm going to agree to an extent here because I do think he has got to be cognizant of the discourse happening right now, not just on television with us and not just on NBA Twitter or in newspapers. There's discourse happening right now at the league office. There's discourse happening right now amongst the referees. And look, Draymond has talked about this. He knows when he gets that first technical, he's able to get away with a little bit more after that. I mean, he admitted that to me one time. I was playing for the Pelicans, and he got a technical early in the game, and the things he was saying to the referees the rest of the game, I went up to him after the game. We talked about it. I'm like, what's going on? Like, how were you able to do this? He goes, I don't know. I just know. As soon as I get one, they don't want to throw me out of the game. As it relates to game 2, though, and I said this yesterday, as it relates to game 2, there was nothing I saw, even the Jaylen Brown incident, that warranted getting thrown out of the game. The thing you bring up about being careful, I think that relates back to that discourse, that now it's on everyone's radar, that if he gets that first technical, what is he going to get away with? And it only takes one referee to make a split-second decision and toss him out of the game, and that hurts the Warriors, and I'll tell you why. Because what he brought to the game, to game 2, he doesn't need to change at all.
Right.
His approach doesn't need to change at all. He was a nuisance. He was an annoyant. He was an instigator. He set the tone for the Warriors. He gave them energy. He gave them a spirit. It was combative, and it worked. Mm-hmm. And whether or not, we can debate all day, whether or not it's getting into the Boston Celtics heads, I'm not here to debate that. I'm not here to debate that. I don't think that the Celtics should be trying to bait him into technicals or bait him into double technicals. I think they should go out and try to figure out how to guard Steph Curry. That's probably more important to this series. But if you're Draymond, you have to bring this approach to every game. And he's talked about this before. He's talked about the fact that year when the Warriors were without Steph Curry, they were without Klay Thompson, he was on his own. He was a terrible player because the games didn't matter.
Right.
And he is at his best when the games matter, and he brings this edge. And whether you like it or not, whether you're a fan of his or not, he has got to bring that edge, and he's got to teeter on the brink of falling off that edge.
But be clear, nobody's disagreeing with you about how he played. We're talking about the communication, not just with the officials, but after the game, when you publicize what your feelings are and what your intent is, knowing how the league office can be. And all the players out there, you got
to... on that point, I'll let you finish after that. My question to you on that is, what did he say after the game
It wasn't in the arena. He was talking about, I heard an interview, and I'm trying to remember the exact quote. Please forgive me for not having it. I don't remember it verbatim. But he was essentially saying, they ain't throwing me out. It's the finals.
Yeah.
They're not going to do that. No, you don't say that. You don't say, I know they're not going to do it. You don't say that.
Your issue with the post-game comments is not him going on a podcast or not him giving interviews.
No, not at all.
Your issue is him essentially daring the league or daring the referees to throw him out.
Listen, I'm all about, as long as you're putting in the work, go get your money.
Yeah.
Do all means. Don't just get it as a player. Get it as an executive. Get it as somebody in media. Get it any way you can. I'm all for it. I'll be damned if I'm not trying. So let's be clear about that. All I'm saying, though, is this. It's one thing to feel that way. It's another thing to verbalize it, understanding how the league is and what they guard against. And you have some people out there who believe just officiate the game. The rules should be the rule, and that should be it. Hell with all of that. Moments matter. Regular season game, I'd have booted Draymond Green out of the game if I was official and he got in my face too much. Finals, I'm not trying to do that. It's the finals, man. I got to make sure I exhaust every means before I make that decision to get you. But it's easier for me to do if I'm an official. And I'm buffered by the league office. If you're sitting out there publicly declaring, they ain't going to do that to me. It's the finals. They ain't got no choice. I'm going to get away with it. Trust me. You don't say that. You keep that to yourself. You can feel that way. You just keep it to yourself.
I will say this, that the referees that are reffing this NBA Finals, and there's a number of them, they rotate crews every game. These are the best of the best. These guys have graded out the best. A lot of them have a lot of tenure in the league, so they get a chance to do finals games over and over. These are the best referees in the world. They also are the best communicators for referees. So if there is a mandate or if there is communication from the league or from the Referees Association, hey, we've got to lock this up. They are going to go to Draymond, and he's smart enough to recognize. They're going to go to Draymond at the jump circle or in warm-ups.
Right.
Hey, man, like the antics, we're not dealing with that.
But we're only going
tonight.
by what we see and what we hear, JJ.
Yes.
I'm not disputing that. We all covered the league for a quarter century. Right? You're absolutely right. But we still have to take into account what we're seeing and then what you say publicly. And we have to say, wait a minute, based on that, you can't do that. Right. Because now you might change that kind of thinking when it comes to you just to make a point. Yeah. And you never know. It only takes one.
All right. Draymond has 27 techs in the playoffs, most over the last decade, and the Warriors coaching staff has the most techs this season, including the playoffs, with 10. We will leave it there. Coming up on First Take, a little football. That bad man back at camp. So can he get that elusive?
Try, particularly without Devontae Adams and Valdez-Scantling, two of his primary receivers. We'll see what he does.
All right, fair enough. Another guy trying to chase it down. From one superstar quarterback to the greatest of them all, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers mandatory minicamp starts today. That means Tom Brady embarks on season number 23. Get me all that TB12. It's been an eventful offseason for him as he famously announced his retirement before changing his mind and returned to the Bucs. Just 40 days later, last year, Brady threw for 5,316 yards with 43 TDs and just 12 interceptions. Yeah.
Swagoo, do you see Tom Brady there? Is it just me, or does he look a bit big?
Let me see the video.
Is it just me? Let's go back to that video.
Go back, because I was reading.
I mean, the big man balling, I mean, he might belong in one of those segments.
Now, Stephen A., he may have his shells. He got these things called shells, this plastic that go underneath. But Tom is looking thick in the lower half. He look a little bigger.
Maybe he's just been squatting.
I'm not mad at him,
yeah,
but he looks bigger.
Maybe it's muscle.
Yeah, maybe it's muscle.
Listen. He don't have a belly, so I ain't gonna.
He ain't got no.
You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying that he just look a little bigger. It kind of surprised me. It threw me off.
A little thicker. Yeah. Okay.
It threw me off.
All right.
You know.
Let me ask you this, Swagoo. Do you think Brady's going to put up another MVP caliber season now that you've seen thick Brady?
Molly, I know I'm not ever supposed to say this, but no, I don't believe he will. And it's more to do with what's around him and where they are as Tampa as a team right now, as opposed to Tom Brady still not being great. One, like people have to remember, right? And I know everybody has a comfort level because there's experience there in Tampa, but Tom Brady lost both of his starting guards this offseason. We don't know if Rob Gronkowski is going to come back, who's been integral in his entire career for the last 10 years. More importantly now, with the age being a part of this conversation that we're having. Chris Godwin is coming off of an ACL injury. We expect him to be good, but we don't know what that means as far as Tom Brady being as dominant as he was last year. We know Tom is going to play well. He's going to throw touchdowns. He's going to throw for yards. But to be in the MVP conversation, we got to also talk about the other guys. I expect Justin Herbert to be in that conversation. I expect, obviously, Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes. When you start thinking about Russell Wilson now has weapons in an offense that they want to throw the football a lot more. I think about all of those things as opposed to Tom Brady not being good. I just believe this particular season, with what's going on in Tampa, with the question marks that lie there, with health issues with this team, with a new head coach in Todd Bowles, and I know that Byron Leftwich is still there with Tom Brady, but there is some change that's happened in Tampa, and I'm not ready to say that he's going to go out and throw for 5,000 yards again and all of those touchdowns based on, one, the personnel that's available to him. but he'll probably prove me wrong.
Swagger, I'm slightly different from you on this regard. It's almost by default, though. When I look at Tom Brady in Tampa, right? Mike Evans is going to be back. Godwin, I know he's coming back off an injury, but he's be back. Cameron Brady's been around on the team for a while, so even though Gronk is not there any longer, Brady's still there, and that's a familiar, weapon that you utilize at least in practice and sometimes during the game. So I think that's going to be there. Leonard Fournette and Giovanni Bernard are still in your backfield. So I think for the most part, the continuity is there. And if you're going to go away from Bruce Arians, who better to go to than Todd Bowles, who was a head coach in this league before, all right, with the New York Jets, who was your defensive coordinator, and obviously has a lot of faith in you, and Byron Leftwich hasn't left the last time I checked. And so you still got that there. Then I got to look at the rest of the NFC South. Atlanta, Matt Ryan is no longer there. You're retooling, you're rebuilding. Carolina, we still ain't sold on them. We understand that deal, okay? And, of course, even though New Orleans Saints defense is real, is big time, okay, Jameis Winston still has something to prove. Plus, he's coming off an injury. And on top of it all, Sean Payton ain't there, even though Dennis Allen's been there for a while and his familiarity and what have you. The bottom line is this is his first, spot being the head coach for the Saints, okay?
Head coach.
So I look at the NFC South. Then I look at the rest of the NFC. Don't get me started on your Cowboys. We look at the Philadelphia Eagles, even though we like what they did with A.J. Brown and stuff like that. They got him, and we're expecting something. Jalen Hurts is still a question mark. We don't even like the name of the Commanders, so don't even get me started with their team. And the New York Giants, even though Dable's the new head coach, what's Daniel Jones going to do? So then I'm looking at the NFC North. You got Aaron Rodgers, but you're devoid of your two top receivers. Minnesota can be legit, but Kirk Cousins, whatever, we don't know. Chicago, where you going?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Justin Fields, we'll see. All right, and the Detroit Lions, damn it, we'll just be nice and just say it's the Detroit Lions. Okay, so we got that going on.
They're going to be better, Stephen. They're going to be better.
Gone.
The Lions are going to be better.
Russell Wilson, how much worse can you be? Of course they're going up. I mean, when you're in the basement, you damn right you're going up, okay? So then now you got the NFC West.
That's why I threw you there.
And NFC West, Garoppolo's hurt. Trey Lance is getting his shot. We'll see. Russell Wilson's going in Seattle. The Rams are the reigning Super Bowl champions, so they're the threat.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, when I look at Tampa, the only definitive team that I see standing as a conspicuous roadblock are the Los Angeles Rams. Everybody else in the NFC is ripe with question marks. That's my only thing.
So to your point, like we don't have to argue about this. It's Tom Brady. More than likely, he's going to play well and have a lot of success. That's what he's proven. But when I'm sitting here in June, I'm concerned. One, when you bring up the NFC teams, I look at how we're going to scope this MVP conversation, right?
Right.
We're going to lead into the season talking about the four guys in the AFC West. That's going to lead the conversation as we go into the league. And we know how much talking about certain guys and how we're propping them up and when they have these moments plays into the MVP conversation as well. Here's the thing that I will say, and the biggest concern, and this is why I brought up the two guards departing from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Okay.
Brother, the New Orleans Saints have beat Tom Brady head against the goalposts every time they've played.
Except the playoffs.
And when we start,
except the playoffs.
Except the playoffs.
Okay.
But Stephen A., listen to this. Just like I like you watch me, I watch you, and we talk about basketball, right? And we were having a conversation about Joel Embiid and Jokic, and how at the end of the year they played each other, and you factor that in to what some people would make that decision based on, right? So now you got Aaron Rodgers and Matt Stafford in the NFC, who more than likely are going to play either at the same level or at a even level as Tom Brady. And then we got to focus on all them dudes in the AFC. So I'm just wondering, when he has those moments of playing against defenses that may have the opportunity to exploit what they're doing based on where their personnel is right now, it may knock us off of him being the MVP.
Okay, that's fine. But you do understand the blasphemy element of your argument, right? You do understand where the blasphemy kicks in, right? DeMarcus,
I don't. I missed it.
Marcus Spears.
Find
Marcus
it.
Spears. Swagoo is worried in regards to Tom Brady in June. See, the blasphemy is
Stephen
in
A.
June. That's all. It's not. I'm not saying anything about Tom Brady. It's in June. I mean, do you understand that? You understand that?
But say the focus is not on Tom Brady
Yeah,
performance.
it's about that he lost parts. He's worried about the parts around him, and then New Orleans stepping up.
It's what's around him. We know Tom Brady when he was in New England.
My bad. I'm sorry.
The year
I thought we were saying with Tom Brady. We said with Tom Brady put up another MVP caliber season.
Yeah.
I'm saying to you that I've seen this brother. One of the things that make him so brilliant is not just his talent. It's how brilliant he is as a football mind and how he maximizes the talent around him. In other words, he's made stuff work when it seemed like it couldn't. So I'm saying it's June.
Yeah.
That's Tom Brady.
Marcus is just saying he lost
Well, would I be
people on the
concerned?
line, and he's concerned.
I can't fight
So now, Molly, little Miss Red Riding Hood. Now you want to sit up there and you want to sit up there and tell me you want to come to the defense of Swagoo when nobody defends Tom Brady. He mentioned Tom Brady and concerned in June.
I didn't even give my opinion. First of all, he's talking about Jameis Winston, the Saints. I didn't even go. I'm just reiterating his standpoint. Tom Brady had arguably the best seasons of his career these past 2 seasons. He's not saying it's Brady. He's saying that they lost parts around him, and he's saying that New Orleans is elevating themselves. So I'm just clarifying.
I don't hear you reiterating and clarifying my points. I don't hear that.
Well,
from
you're
you.
getting confused by his. So I see
you doing that for everybody but me. You know,
as we sit here in June.
Yes.
As we sit here in June, since you want to make that point and reiterate it, I don't know if Rob Gronkowski is coming back to play for the Bucs in June.
Can I say this to you? Can I say this to you about June?
Can I say
this to you about June? Can I say something to you about June?
Yes.
I think the Dallas Cowboys got a chance to win the Super Bowl in June. I can say that. I can say that, right? I can say that. I think the Dallas Cowboys got a chance to win the Super Bowl because it's June. Now, come September, October, November, December, obviously I will be saying something different. But since we're in June, I mean, damn, since we can say anything, hell, I can sit up there and tell you Dallas Cowboys are favorites to come out of the NFC and go to the Super Bowl in June.
Okay.
What does that mean?
See, Marcus,
nothing.
Marcus,
Absolutely nothing.
This is why I'm telling you we need you in New York during the football season, because it's just a lot of this. And it's a lot for a girl to take.
Cowboys.
Swagoo.
It always comes back.
I got to go to break.
Swagoo and people like him and Ryan Clark, they big time. You know, when they get to New York, it's rare appearances. I mean, they bless us with their presence. I mean, far be it for them to be in New York City.
You're not going to do that.
Come on out here.
You're not going to do that.
Come out here, my Libra brother. What's going on? Let's bring my Libra brother. Look at this Swagoo. Look at this Swagoo. Look at this. This is my Libra. That's what I'm trying to say. You see what I'm saying? It's rare.
Don't let him do that. Matter of fact, I gotta hello. While we got my brother here.
Okay.
You're doing some
While
big
we
things.
got my brother here.
He doesn't have a mic on.
He can't hear you. He can't hear you.
What are you saying?
I don't care. I'm giving him a shout out. Y'all just tell him I'm giving him a shout out.
He's giving you a shout out.
RC has got him, Channing Crowder, and Fred Taylor got the pivot. It's phenomenal, and they did the Breakfast Club this morning. They moving up, Stephen A. He is getting too big time for us.
How was that?
Well, listen, Ryan Clark does not have a mic on. He was not supposed to be on the show today. He just made a impromptu appearance.
With his merch on.
He's got the pivot.
Yeah.
Him and those boys are doing spectacular things with his podcast. I'm proud of you, my brother.
They killing
it.
it.
Really am. He's on the Breakfast Club this morning.
Absolutely. And they did an MTV Cribs edition at Stephen A's house. So if you want to see where Stephen A lives and you want a tour of his house, there's a Cribs edition. Okay. It's very long, though, to get through the whole house. So I hope you have 30. Damn sure, Stephen A. All right. That was yesterday on our show in reaction to the idea of Adam Silver being open to the idea of shortening the regular season. CJ, JJ back here with us. Let's pick it up where we left it off. Who wants to start this?
I'll start it.
Okay, you go ahead. Do you think the NBA should consider shortening the regular season?
No, they should not. I think when you consider all the things that players have available to them, I think that the 82 games should be the 82 games. You don't have to, you can work around your practice schedule. Again, I'm fully cognizant of the fact that both of you are far more qualified than me, to take whatever position that you're taking. I'm just speaking from the standpoint of a guy that's covered the league for more than a quarter century and is talking to thousands of people throughout all of these years and what their positions are, and I share it. I think that when you consider where the league once was to where it is today, and you consider, I don't want to get into all of it, but the first class travel, the fact that you don't have back-to-back-to-backs anymore, the fact that practicing, even though it's important, as coaches and organizations manage usage of a player, all of those things come into consideration. I definitely think in the business of sports, considering the money that's out there and the money that's there to be made, you can stick with what is. And I think that it's important to point that out. And I also think it's important to point this out as well. And this is where I was going to yesterday. I want to make sure the audience understand that vast majority of professional athletes, whether it's basketball, it's football, or anything, are great people, great professionals, dedicated to their work, their craft. They put in the time, they make the sacrifices that we can't even imagine. But we also got to pay attention to the fact that the actions of the few sometimes taint the many. And players religiously have lamented that, particularly during collective bargaining negotiations, which obviously you've been a part of and you'll be a part of even more in the future. Okay? But the reality is that in the world of business, when you're sitting across the table from folks, you don't need but a few examples to make an argument against what you want to do. And when you consider the money that's being paid and the luxuries that people have available to them to maximize whatever the potential that they may have, to talk about shortening a basketball season, where obviously it's going to cost you some money, but more importantly, 82 games being too much, I just don't buy that right now. I'm not the one on the court playing, y'all are. And I certainly respect that, and that needs to be stated. But if it was good enough for generations to help build this sport, despite the argument that modifications and adjustments are made all the time, why all of a sudden is it just not a good thing to have 82 games now?
So this is my basic understanding of this entire conversation, is that it really centers around two things.
Okay.
And you brought up one of them, which is, of course, the health of the players not being available to play. Would they be more available if there were 58 games, et cetera? You obviously brought up the money as well. I think what the money comes down to is really the most important part of this entire conversation, and why this conversation started 4 or 5 years ago, and that's trying to figure out how to drum up attention for the regular season. How do we make the regular season matter more? There was talk of an in-season tournament. They obviously added the play-in at the end of the regular season, which I think has been a great thing, because it's allowed 3 or 4 teams who in March and April would historically tank to remain competitive, and it's provided us with a lot of really cool moments and an entire week of basketball where we get playoff-like moments, like when the Minnesota Timberwolves beat the Clippers in Minnesota this year, like when Trae Young had a huge game against the Cleveland Cavaliers. So it's all about drumming up interest. So the idea of having a 58-game season with an in-season tournament, as long as there's no loss in revenue, you figure out creative ways to get there. There's an argument to be made. On your point about this notion about players not being available, and respectfully, you bringing up 1 or 2 examples, and I know exactly who you're talking about, so let's name them because you brought this up before, Ben Simmons and Kyrie Irving. When you talk about 2 or 3 guys who really have taken advantage of these guaranteed contracts and not being available, I think it's a poor reflection on what we do as professionals and what the vast majority of the league, and I think most owners and I think the league office really does understand that the vast majority of players act in the best interest of their teams, the best interest of their careers, and the best interest of the league.
Pause that before you go on. That before you go on. I totally agree with you. My reason for bringing that up is because when you're sitting across the table from each other, they'll bring up that argument even though they know that you're absolutely correct with what you said. When they want to get what they want to get, those few elements they could use to their advantage to get to what they want, they will bring up. That's all I mean by bringing that up.
And I'm not saying you're wrong, Stephen A.
That's all I'm saying.
I guess the issue that I have with this, and CJ does
you
as
should
well,
have an issue with
with some of the comments that you made yesterday, and I don't remember specifically. I know the feeling that I got after your comments. Okay. And the feeling I got after your comments was the idea of the spoiled, entitled modern-day athlete. And I get blasted all the time because of my koozie comments and the plumbers environment thing. Yeah. I have always said that every era of basketball should be celebrated, every era of basketball should be acknowledged. We pay homage to the greats and the old heads all the time, and we wouldn't have our league if it wasn't for people like Bob Cousy and Wilt Chamberlain and Magic Johnson and Dr. J. Like, I wish all those guys could have been able to sign the contracts that we are able to sign. Okay. So I just want to put that out there. The other point I wanted to make, though, about, and again, back to the entitled athlete thing real quick. Like, I was around the league for 15 years. 99% of guys work hard, and if you don't make it. You don't last 15 years. You don't last, you're on your 10?
Going to 10.
Yeah, going to 10. So the only other point I wanted to make real quick, and that's just the type of, this goes back to the injury component, the type of basketball that is played in the modern NBA and the amount of possessions there are. If you look back, let's say the 90s, right? The Cleveland Cavaliers in 1996 averaged 84 possessions per game, right? The lowest in the league this year, I believe, was the Dallas Mavericks because Luka likes to control the pace, and that was around 93 possessions a game. But the vast majority of teams, you're playing 100, 105 possessions a game. You're running all over the court. It's the spacing, too. The amount of action that you're and load that you're putting on your body. Hold on. 90s basketball. That's when you started covering the NBA. 90s basketball. That's the era I grew up. Mark Jackson brings the ball up, throws it to the wing to Reggie Miller, throws it in the post to Rick Smits, and everybody stands around. How many possessions like that do you see today? You don't see those possessions. So the wear and tear on our bodies has increased. So yes, we do have all of these medical advances. We do have all these sports science modules and equipment that can keep us on the court. But the reality is the wear and tear on our bodies is very different than it was 20 or 30 years ago. And that's a fact.
And let me just say really quick, so you're president of the Players Association as well, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
I am. So we have some very intriguing conversation. But I'll say two things. So no one said it was too much, first and foremost. No players have come out and said 82 games is too much. We don't want to do it. This is just more so about a discussion on ways in which we can improve our game. Mm-hmm. It's a discussion that needs to be had. It's not to say that it's going to happen. Personally, I don't think 58 games is enough. I wouldn't be in favor of it, but I would have the discussion because that's my job as the president of the Players Association. I think there's a way in which we can find a happy medium. I kind of spoke about that on the last show. Is we have to talk about all options, all ideas. Injuries are obviously a part of the game. It's a problem that we're having and that we're facing. But who's to say that these injuries won't occur at 72 games? There's no guarantee, but we still have to talk about how the game looks if there is a play-in tournament implemented. How do we do it? How many games should we be playing? How do we still continue to figure out ways to generate revenue? These are all important issues, but I think it's about the quality of play, which is what we care about. It's about the fan engagement, and it's about keeping this sport as pure as possible from a basketball historic sake. Mm-hmm. And I think there's a way in which we can do it. And I didn't give you an answer on what I would vote for. I would vote against 58 games. But I would consider 72 if it made sense for the masses, mm-hmm. if it made sense for the players, and you talked about competitive balance. Mm-hmm. I want to speak to players sitting out, right? Because that's going to happen regardless whether players decide to, franchises and organizations decide to. And we haven't talked about, the elephant in the room. It's like there's teams that are strategically trying to get players in June. Yeah. That's going to happen whether there's 58 games or 72 games.
We'll
30
revisit.
seconds.
Well, no, we got to go. We'll revisit what you said. All I'm going to say to you is this. I don't disagree with any of the points that you made. But in terms of my comments, I want to make sure you understand something. Players, as much as you love the game because you're participants in the game, there are people who covered the game for decades who love the game too. Yep. And we have a profound love for the game and a profound level of protection, not just for the game before, but the game now and players like you who represent the game. So when we're pointing out something that somebody else does, we're actually coming to the defense of those who don't do that. We're saying 99% of y'all do this. The 1% is tainting it because the damage that you could potentially do is to the 99%.
We're up against it. To be continued. That's JJ's here tomorrow.
You can visit.
Sorry,
no,
JJ.
We can visit it.
Hold that thought.
It's
always good to leave more meat on the bone. Okay.